So hello and welcome to our Eukanuba Breeder Stories vodcast with me, Kelly Ceccarelli, veterinary manager from Eukanuba. Today I will be speaking with the amazing, incredible, wonderful Lisa Croft-Elliott. I know she'll be squirming in the background, but it's true. She's a photographer, of course. Many of you will know her, but for those of you who don't, she is a wonderful photographic journalist with over 1,000 magazine covers to her credit and decades of experience. She's regarded as the master of canine photography worldwide and has earned herself many international awards, including Dog Photographer of the Year, and her work has been featured in so many books. While Lisa is best known for her exquisite dog photography, she is also a dog owner, breeder, exhibitor, handler. She herself has earned record-breaking top honors across all of her breeds, both in the US and abroad, so pretty impressive stuff. And as if she couldn't be more impressive, she's also an award-winning writer, having earned the coveted Howell Book House Award. She's also worked in film, I don't know where she finds the time, and has even posed on the other side of the camera too, having worked as a model back in the day. And even though she has all of this experience, she is still incredibly humble and a wonderful person to listen to. So I know you're going to really enjoy listening to our chat today. So hello, Lisa. How on earth is all of that possible to put into one person's life? It's exhausting just talking about it.
Good afternoon, Kelly. I think because I run in a constant state of sleep deprivation, I'm able to accomplish more. And I
this
was
is where the
fortunate.
humbleness comes out, you see. Oh, because I'm sleep deprived, I don't sleep. But there's a lot of work that goes into this.
Well, I was really fortunate. You know, my mother, my grandfather, the people that I was brought up around really instilled in me a tremendous, almost to detriment, work ethic. And I learned from a young child that if you want to do something, you've got to work hard in order to accomplish it. And the only way to really get through life is to keep multitasking. Right. And so I was ever the multitasking workaholic. And you know, it allowed me to develop into a more fluid and shall we say versatile individual.
So you're almost talking in past tense there. Are you still a workaholic now? Or is that something you're working on, or?
I keep trying to put it in check because my instinct is just to keep going. And sadly, as we age, our battery capacity is not quite as high. But I think I've learned much better in more recent years about the work quality of life balance.
Yeah. And I mean, we were chatting the other day, and something that came across very clearly is you're so tenacious and you've got this refusal to give up, and you're just working on, and you've already spoken about this incredible work ethic that you have. And I guess, you know, that work-life balance. But if you were to describe yourself to somebody, I know your friends call you Woof. You know, how would you describe yourself? Are you a photographer first, a dog owner first? Are you know, who is Lisa really at the core of it?
The core of it is I'm someone who is agoraphobic. I don't understand people. I love dogs. And I love the arts. And I live to be able to take mental snapshots of experience and history, and also to be able to record them with my camera. I really can't sum me up too terribly well. I was about dogs and horses and small mammals, and growing up we had everything from turtles, guinea pigs, horses, dogs. before I really interacted a whole lot with people.
Mm-hmm.
And the animals have always been my first passion. And then I think this is what brought the difference many years later into my photographic skills. Was I worked in front of the lens, which was very boring, quite
A lot of
lucrative
people would say
still.
that was very exciting for a lot of people. And I think this is what makes you so distinctively different, because today in our world, certainly in the year 2020, people are wanting the fame, the fortune, the money. They're aspiring to be that famous person in front of the camera. But what you're saying is actually you prefer being behind it, and maybe that's part of your success. I don't know, because I mean you were
I was in front of it, but the
model,
entire
weren't
time
you?
I was in front of it, I was talking to the photographers about what they were doing, and I was watching the lights. I did spend some time working in theater doing the lighting. I love light, and that's one of the first elements I bring into all of my work. First, I look for the light. You know, on my tombstone, it will say, insert dog here. Because that's what I say to people when we're out shooting, is I'll be walking along, and I'll say, here, insert the dog here. Because the light is just what's going to bring that animal into the forefront.
So there's the first top tip for any budding photographers watching this and wanting to learn from you, that the light is the most important thing for you. Then I take it that's one of
each person taking a photograph has to have their own vision, and that's what they need to get across. If all you're doing is copying other photos you see, they won't mean anything to you here. It's people say, well, I can't get my dog to stand quite right. Be a little patient. Talk to your dog. Then the dog will relax and the photos will come. The failing in taking photos is not trying. Many times I'll say
the failure in not
the failure about not taking photos, or try that again. The failure in taking photos is by not taking them. There are many times I have dragged very patient individuals out on photo shoots in remote places, odd locations, and said, this is risk of no success, but I have an idea. And it's by taking those chances. If you're sitting on your sofa in the morning having a coffee, and you think about the time you saw your dog running down the beach at you and how it made you smile, go take a picture of your dog running down the beach.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
If you're not confident or you're not sure quite how you want to do it, take a video of it. We all have smartphones. They're amazing. I have an embarrassing amount of magazine covers I've done with iPhones.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's quite something to admit.
I'm working on a book right now with a publisher in New York. All of the photos were shot on the iPhone.
Wow.
The fact is that we have the tools. You don't have to think, oh, well, I don't have a camera like yours that costs more than my car. You may not need it to get the photo that makes your heart sing. What you need is to take the chance, push the button, go down to the beach, go to your back garden, put the video on, then run it in slow motion and see how it makes you smile.
Yeah. Like you say, it's about, living in the moment and taking a chance and listening to your feelings. And then that creates that beautiful piece of work that you can look back at for years and years to come. And your family can too. It evokes that emotion, that feeling, that sense of positivity. And you are such an amazingly positive person, and anyone can see that, especially when you're talking. But I know you have struggled with your health. You mentioned to me yesterday you had problems with your immune system, with bacterial pneumonia. Is that correct?
Yeah, among other things that hit me all at once.
Yes, I know that there's been quite a few stories. I see you at the dog shows crawling around on your hands and knees. So someone seeing you looking so athletic and just like crawling around on the floor, you would never imagine that you would have had some of the health issues that you've been struggling with the last couple of years. And I know you've spoken about your toy poodle. Was your
Flo,
your go-to person?
yes.
It's so wonderful to listen to you. So I want you to share a little bit of information with the viewers about your relationship with your dogs and how they've helped you through those tough times. Is that okay?
Oh, that's, my dogs have always been my main support cell. I had, back in the 80s, I had a bit of an accident where I fell and I destroyed my left knee. I spent 1.5 years in a wheelchair. And at that time, I had Japanese Akitas and American Akitas. And those dogs got me through some of the hardest, most lonely times by just simply being there. And they would know instinctively when it was time to just come over and put their head in my lap. They would follow. I lived in a 3-story house and I couldn't walk. So I would go up and down the stairs on my butt. And they would flank me.
Can we just take a moment just to imagine that scene? In a 3-story house, most people would say, right, it's time to move into a bungalow. But no, there you are going up and down 3 flights of stairs. I mean,
for me, bad health or injuries are something to be conquered, not to yield to. Pain and illness, I don't have tolerance for or patience for. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. But again, so at that juncture of my life, those dogs were absolutely there for me. When I was a young teenager, I was very badly bullied. And I had my Carrie Blue, who was my rock and got me through many, many, many hard times. I was badly beaten up, teased. I was a gangly young kid who played the cello. So
nice.
I didn't fit in. And I guess I've always been that round peg around square holes anyway. But the dogs don't mind. In more recent years, with the last 14 years, I've had Flo. Flo, she and I are inseparable. She knows when I'm starting to stress out. She knows when I'm having a panic attack. And immediately she's in my lap, licking my nose, which is a diversion. And she's been on many photo shoots. She has served as the attractor for the other dogs on photo shoots. She's responsible for many photo covers.
Oh, wow. Because I was going to ask you later, we might as well ask you now, it's a nice segue, is, what are you, obviously dogs are dogs. They have their own minds, and they don't necessarily want to listen to you when you're asking them to sit in that great location where the light is perfect. So what tips and tricks do you have to, obviously you mentioned patience. Now you're mentioning you've got a Flow, which is, amazing that she's sitting there. I've got this image in my mind of her sitting off camera, kind of like directing the dogs to do what
she directs my life.
So, what that's amazing. What other tips and tricks, apart if people have a Flow or they, what they need patience as well, what do they need to get that great photo apart from just a gut feeling and a just do it attitude?
It really is those 3 ingredients: gut feeling, a vision, and patience, 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 patience.
Mm.
Before we go on a shoot, I try and take some time to talk to the dog. Many dogs, I put the camera down and let them look at. Only once have I had one pee on it. It's a camera to a dog is a big eyeball. It's prey. They are being hunted by this big eyeball. So I need the dog to be comfortable with what I've got. When I photograph a lot of sighthounds, I tend to use a much bigger lens and I go further away. And I lurk with intent to shoot. And I wait until I see these dogs give me the positions I want. Because if you wait, the photo will come.
Okay.
Then once the dogs I know are comfortable with me and the people are kind of getting, I try and show them what I want to do. I'll go over into position and get down on my two hands and two legs and show them how I want the dog and kind of where I want it looking, a general idea of what I want. Then I'll go back to my camera, and sometimes, depending on the dog, depending on the breed, they can walk in, boom, it'll come up, hit it. Other times I have somebody who's standing off in the distance, who I'll just raise my hand, they'll call the dog. You get it. I have to thank Prada and Cole Haan, the shoe manufacturers, for the largest number of successes I've had in taking photos, because I'm often throwing my own shoes. So the dog will come up and watch the shoe go and hit the pose.
So you just shared with everybody listening your very exquisite taste in shoes there. Prada.
Oh, well, Prada's, I was taught by Frank Sabella and Dennis McCoy, two very respected dog men and judges, many, many years ago, that you do not sacrifice what you put on your feet,
Right.
because your feet are your living.
Yeah.
And I've lived by that.
Yeah.
Of course, I have taken it a bit too extreme for those who know my shoe closet.
A girl after my own heart. That's amazing. I know that you've mentioned before that your dogs are your life, they're your passion. Do you think that
Absolutely
gives you the edge? Because you see you at Crufts, for example, amongst a bank of photographers. You're not there on your own. What is it that gives you that edge versus other photographers out there? And please don't be humble here and say you're just one of many. We know you're an amazing photographer. You have a wonderful eye. You've spoken before about what a thrill it is to work. What can you share?
I know dogs from both sides of the lens and the leash. My first dog show was Baltimore County Kennel Club in Annapolis, Maryland in April 1969. So that's how long I've known the dog show world. And I've spent many of those years, I wasn't actively showing, but I would go and watch and study the dogs, study the handlers. And then, because throughout the decades, there have been so many wonderful, kind people who've taught me about timing and handling skills and dogs and adapting to their attitudes and different breeds, because I was never focused on one breed because there are too many that I love. Then when I started taking photos, I had that knowledge base. I'd already achieved great success with showing dogs. So then it was picking up the camera. And it's the timing. You can watch when a dog is if a dog just does a slight turn like this when they're coming off the table, chances are they're going to finish it. Then they gather themselves and go. So you have that split second, boom, to catch it. It's the same thing when a handler is baiting a dog on the table. You know that moment that they're going, that millisecond. And if you wait for it, it will come.
Wow.
Now, there are exceptions to every rule. There are some dogs that I have shown, that I have photographed, that I have lived with, that I have walked away from shoots with my head in my hands because they only live to destroy themselves. But most of the time, there's that moment of glory. And I always say, I can hear in my brain, ta-da, hit the button.
Oh, wow. Even before you've looked at the photo.
Oh, I don't look to the photos till the end. Again, I was brought up shooting film.
Right.
You know, I started this with film. So first of all, I'm much more economical in the way I shoot. I don't have enough time to sort through thousands of photos. So, and film taught me to be more precise because every time I pushed the button, it cost me money.
Yeah. Now I remember those days going to the chemist to get your film.
When I first tried doing it more, I would go to the chemist and get it developed.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a local training class and I said, can I take pictures of your dogs here? And they were like, well, yeah, why? And I said, I'm just trying to learn what I'm doing. And I would take it to the chemist and get it developed. And I get these dark, muddy pictures. And I thought, what am I doing here? I'm burning money I don't have. I'm taking time away from my design work. I'm battling a losing proposition. Fortunately, at that moment in time, I was art director in an advertising agency. And I took the packages of pictures in, and I talked to the owner of the agency, who was an amazing photographer. And I said, I'm lost, I'm done. I can't do this. And he said, come here. And we pulled up a light board and put up all the negatives. The photos were fine. It was the developer.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
So at that point, I learned you had to really be careful where you had your film developed. It was like one year we had it at Crufts, I think it was 2003, where Jessup's used to have a stand at Crufts. And as we'd finish rolls, I had a runner taking film down to be developed. And I came back with all my best in show rolls had a line through the negatives.
Oh.
Their machine had scratched all of the negatives.
So what do you do from that point, apart from cry?
I cried a lot. I ate a lot of chocolate. And I had to then scan the negatives and retouch the scratch marks. But I had to pick, go through the negatives with my loupe and pick which ones were worth retouching.
Wow. And you mentioned the chap that you spoke to when you were getting these photos back that you were disappointed with, and he made you look at the negatives. I know you spoke, was that around the same time that somebody told you that you can't make a living out of photography or photographing dogs specifically? Or
what had happened, I was working in the ad agency, and I would come in with my developed film in the middle of the week, and we put it on the table and develop it, critique it. And this was how I was learning to get better. And that's what I say to people, take a picture. If you don't like it, you can retake it. You go, oh, oops, that was a bad idea. But if you don't have the bad ideas, you can't learn to have better ideas. So it's important to keep trying. Don't just think on round one, this is never going to work, because it can take time. One day, the owner walked in and told me I was fired. And I said, okay, I won't do this anymore. And he said, you need to be doing this. This is what you're meant to be doing. And I had my partner at the time, who had some experience in journalism, saying, you can't make money just doing photos of dogs. And talking to other photographers in the dog world, because remember, I was involved in the dog world, and they're like, oh no, there's no money here. So I had it ingrained, you can't make money doing this, but it's a nice side piece. And well, it kind of became my field of dreams. And what I brought to the table with my dog photography back then was a different eye. For me, instead of a two-dimensional side-on photograph of a dog, the dog suddenly became the supermodel. I used natural light, I used different positions, I cared more about the expression and who the dog was, rather than just the outline of the dog, which was generally what was featured in advertising at that point. And that started really changing the face. And I also proved a lot of people wrong that, yes, you can make a living.
Yeah. And that's what's really inspiring, I think, to hear you say that, because it would be, especially when someone's so close to you saying, you cannot do this, you will not make money, especially from someone who has insights in that line of work, and you trust that person. A lot of people would say, okay, well, this isn't for me, this isn't the right thing, I'm being a bit silly, this is a dream. But actually, having that flow and listening to your intuition and going forward and saying, actually, I think I can, and I will, and I'll do it differently, and you watch me. And I think that is incredibly inspiring. So for anyone out there watching this, that even if it's not photography that you're looking at getting into, just listening to that story is just truly inspiring, because many of us will shut down at the first barrier.
Never let somebody tell you you can't do something. Yeah. Because can't is a cop-out. Unless you're starting to cross legal lines, then okay. But I was scheduled to have my left leg amputated. This is how I wound up with my dogs in a 3-story house in Massachusetts, was trying to find a different doctor that didn't want to just cut my leg off. I was still told I'd probably be stuck in the wheelchair for the rest of my life. That didn't work for me. And what I did was had more surgeries. I've had a total of 13 surgeries on my left leg. I bought a bunch of long mirrors and put them down my hallway. And every day I would practice trying to walk, and then trying to walk without a limp, so no one would know anything was wrong. I wore big baggy trousers, so no one would know I had leg braces on. It was, don't say can't. What you have to do is figure out how to.
Yeah. And it's the power of the minds, isn't it? The mind overcoming the body. And that's what you said to me yesterday, that, there's a very common phrase that we all use, that if life gives you lemons, you get lemonade. But you have your own little twist on that. So would you mind just sharing that? I don't want to.
Well, if you like lemonade, then you take the seeds from the lemon and you start growing more plants. So then you can have a lifetime supply of lemonade. Lemons aren't a bad thing. I've had some pretty epic situations in my life that would beat most people into the ground. And because I believe my core person is a terrier, or the Black Knight from Monty Python, I keep going. It's press on regardless.
But I think we all need a little bit of that Black Knight. We all need to have a little bit of terrier in us. It's good.
Well, he cuts off his first arm. Well, that's just a scratch. The other one, that's a surface wound. It's you figure out a way you can get through it. Yeah. It may not be graceful. It may not go in line with other people, but you've got to listen to the inside on how you can make it work. And the great thing about primarily relying on my dogs as the support cell is they don't say, oh, that's a bad idea. They might look at me like, serious? And then I am also blessed with a lot of really good people who think you're totally insane. They will freely admit that. But I know they're standing by to pick up the pieces if I do screw up.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to have good mentors around you, people that you can learn from. And I know that you are really appreciative of the people that you have had around you in the past that have driven you down the right paths.
The people I have now.
Done the wrong ones, yes. And I know that you're really interested in trying to help as many people as you can in the same way that you've received that help. So, you know, what is it you're doing at the moment to try and support younger people that might be looking to get into photography? Is there?
At this particular moment.
Not right now. What have you done recently? No, I'm sure, I know, as I said right at the beginning, you're very humble and you probably don't like bigging yourself up, for want of a better description, but I know you're a lot of people around you that hold you in high regard. So having you as a mentor in itself and you as a teacher is a real privilege for a lot of people.
I don't know about that. You know, when I give advice or I'm trying to share my experiences with people, whether it's from working with the dogs, breeding dogs, handling dogs, or with the photography, or with design work, I give it freely and from the heart, because I never would be who I am or have enjoyed a tiny percentage of the success I've had without the teachers that I've had and still have. You know, and this is something that is so critical for everybody to know, is that the moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. And now we're at a situation with photography where the rules are changing constantly for the technology. And I was joking with a friend of mine last night about, I had parrots that used to be able to go beep, 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 for the modems when we would dial up. And, you know, before there was America Online, I was a sysop because I've always been a geek. And I remember holding the first digital camera from Kodak. And way back in the dark ages, and, you know, just about 2002, I think it was $14,000 camera.
Wow.
And it couldn't take nearly the photos that my old phone could. So it's keeping up with technology. I mean, look at us now. We're all communicating via phones because we can't get together. It's amazing to try and keep up with it. On the other hand, with anything in life, great singers, actors, photographers, you have to start at the base. You have to learn the basic principles. Great singers, you'll pick anybody you like. Started out learning classical voice and doing scales and just doing the rudiments. Artists had to learn perspective, learn horizon points, understand dimension and shadows to bring life to their paintings. Writers of music have to know the scales. Everything has a foundation. With photographs, you learn quickly that don't have the light from behind unless you want a silhouette. You know, make it so the sun's at your back and highlighting what you're trying to take a picture of when you're first learning to do it. Then you can start pushing the bounds, moving outside the box. And I think it applies across all areas of our life, is that you first take the basics, You work on those, and you remember, no one says you can't do something. As long as you've got a good foundation, you've got a jumping off point.
Yeah, and I love that quote. It says, "No, you should never let anybody tell you you can't do something, particularly if they've never done it themselves." Where's the experience? Where's the learning there? And yeah, lifelong learning is so important. But getting back to a little bit to photography, I would be really interested, having seen you in action, what is the funniest or the silliest thing that you've ever done to get that amazing shot that maybe people wouldn't have expected that a professional photojournalist such as yourself may have got themselves into?
That list is fairly long, involves the torture of many handlers, because I will call and say, I have an idea. And most of them, their blood runs cold. Whether most recently, I've had this vision for many years of where I wanted to photograph some dogs. And I called the client and I said, okay, I have an idea. Uh-oh. And it involved them driving from up near Chesterfield down to Kent, and me driving from Belgium over to Kent.
Okay, so
and we had a few hours that I could see by the weather forecast that we might be able to shoot. And I'd been figuring out where the sun would be, would I have the light, will it not rain, because we'd been in weeks of rain, and we had to get the photo. And God bless Adam and his mother Leslie, because they piled their Great Danes in the van and they drove down, and we went to Canterbury, to the cathedral. I figured out a back way into the cloisters. I said, no, we have to be really quiet.
Quite sneaky.
Have you thought about smuggling 3 Great Danes into the cloisters of a cathedral?
Yeah, not the smallest dogs though, honestly, Lisa, are they? You could have chosen a Chihuahua.
And so, I mean, that was one of the most recent. What I was looking to do with this shot is we had done another very well-known photo of where I'd taken some ruins in Northamptonshire, and I'd done 3 Danes between 3 columns. Well, those were the grandparents of these youngsters that they had. And now I recreated the 3, but the next generations.
Okay.
We went on one shoot in New York with a handler who had a cardigan. My dear friend Lois, dear patient friend who we've worked together now my entire career, and his name was Santa Paws. And we'd had a big snowstorm in New York, huge blizzard. And we went to Central Park to shoot, and I saw a kid with a sled. And I said, Lois, we need that sled. I need you and the dog going down the hill on the sled. She's like, you're kidding, right? And I'm like, no. We got the sled from the kid, and I got pictures of her sledding with Santa through the snow. What no one saw after that photo was them crashing down at the bottom. The dog thought it was great fun, and Lois ended up needing knee surgery.
So you're like, I've hurt my knee, I need someone else to hurt theirs too. That's karma.
Maybe. Or my dear friend Adam, who we were doing a photo shoot with his client's Irish setter, and it was just a perfect spot in these woods in Florida. And you have to be careful on some of these shoots and places that I go because of different wildlife that'll kill you. But in this particular case, he was like, Croft-Elliott, we have a problem. These are fire ants I'm standing on. And I'm like, keep smiling, keep smiling. And he was threatening me with bodily harm as he was being devoured by the fire ants. Or another photo shoot I was on in Italy, where I was down on my hands and knees. We were in a wood. I was doing a smooth fox terrier. And suddenly the person behind me, who didn't speak English, and my Italian is completely rubbish, said one little word, viper.
Oh, wow.
I understood that clearly. I don't think I've left the scene of a photo shoot with quite the speed on which I left that day.
Wow. Did you get the shot though?
Yes, I did.
Oh, and was it a good one?
It was a cover.
Oh, so I mean, I know obviously you've taken so many photographs and had like thousands of cover photos, but what's your favorite? In your opinion, what is your best photograph?
I don't have one. I haven't shot my best photo
Specific
yet.
dog or a specific location or a specific shot that you got that you just think, oh, that makes me happy?
Lots of photos make me happy. For me to do the happy dance on a photo shoot is when it comes together.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, with the Danes, Siberian that we photographed in the middle of a blizzard in Central Park that looks like the cover for Call of the Wild. What you didn't see was the stretch limousine, the police, and everybody gathered round because we were breaking the law by where we were. But the results were great. Different reflection shots. One greyhound I did down an amazing reflection shot down the sea behind, on a sand dune, this lake in front, handler dog reflected back. I wasn't quite happy with the photo. It was really pretty, but there was just a couple of things I would have liked to have changed. We went back down there, lake was gone. Turned out it was a puddle. It had been a flood. So every time I look at my photos and I think, oh, if only. So I haven't taken that photo. I've come near as damaged on several timing photographs. There was one photo that I did when Bill McFadden won Westminster handling Torum Scarf Michael. The moment was I was at one end, my colleague Chet was at the other end of the big ring. I had the best in show sign in the foreground. He had just done his go around. He'd gotten down to hit the stack with the dog. So the dog was in beautiful position. Bill was in beautiful position. Chet and I hit the photo at the same moment. So what I had was this tremendous light backlighting them and the silhouette with the story in the foreground. The next frame, I could see Chet was the one who'd fired the flash that filled it all.
Right. Oh,
You know,
wow.
it was timing. One photo that I took that's won numerous awards was top score contradiction, entering the big ring at Crufts with Pamela Cross Stern judging. And just as the dog is coming into the spotlight, she's turning away on her heels. So her red hair was lit up. She's got emotion. The dog's in motion and lit up. And I look at it and I think, oh, if it had been a millisecond different, I would have been happier with my photograph of the stride. But it told the story of what was happening.
So I think, if I was to say what is that one thing, that one top tip that you could give to people if they were wanting to take a fabulous photograph of their dog? I think I know the answer to this already because you keep referring to it, but what is it that you really need?
Patience.
Okay.
Patience and the willingness to keep trying. If you don't get the right photo, nowadays, you hit the delete button.
Yeah.
But before you delete the photo, figure out why you're deleting the photo. What didn't work for you? So that way you don't make the same mistake. In film days, we used to write down the settings we were using and go back. I still have old notebooks of settings that I was using at Crufts, at Westminster, on shoots, and directions for myself on how to make things work. Nowadays, it's all stored within the file. What have you done to meter that? And
still aware of those readings?
Sorry?
You're still aware of those readings, are you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And this is something that I'm constantly doing, because if you watch me work, my hands are constantly moving, because the camera may tell me one thing and I'm like, no, that's not the way I want to do it. And I'll change all the settings manually while I'm going, because I know how I want to tell the story. And that goes back to what we said in the beginning, is take your own vision, not somebody else's. Take your vision, what you want to show, what you want to tell, and learn how to bring that into practice. And it's by having your own style and your own storytelling ability that you're completing that creative circle.
And if obviously you don't live in the UK anymore, but if there was somebody, I know you visit very frequently, not at the moment, obviously, given the COVID-19 pandemic that we're living through right now, but if somebody was watching this and maybe they were a breeder or just a normal dog owner, and they were really excited about the idea of you taking a photograph of their dog, is that, how do they get in touch with you? Is it something that are you invited by people that you don't know to take photographs? Do you just do work for magazines and for events, or what's?
Oh no, I have plenty of people. I don't advertise. I don't have a business card. I've always said, if you know what rock to look under, you'll find me. I tell people looking for me at the shows, look on the floor, because I'm probably crawling around. I'm a horrendously bad businesswoman. But if someone sees me, I'm available. They can message me, arrange to do photo shoots. I mean, I've gone on photo shoots in Brazil, from Brazil to Japan, all over the States, Canada, all over Europe. I have no bounds for that.
And you have a website, don't you?
Yes. And it's i4dogs.com.
i4dogs, EYE.
Yep.
Okay.
EYE, the number 4 dogs.
Okay, great. So you can have a look at there. So before we go, we like to do this thing at the end called the quick fire round, where I'm just going to ask you 5 questions, and the idea is you're supposed to try and answer them with as few words as possible. I have a feeling we may have actually covered some of these questions, or you've provided the answers throughout our chat, but I'll go ahead with them anyway. So if you were a dog, which breed would you be, and why? You mentioned this already.
Probably an Irish Terrier.
Yeah.
I like my family group. And I'm a bit racy, but I can be a killer when I need to.
Whoa, okay. Describe yourself in 1 word.
Does a hyphenated word count?
Yeah, go for it.
Out of the box.
Your most influential mentor.
Oh. That really depends.
You can have more than one if you really want.
No, I think I'll just go for one that's, to some might seem odd, because it's not so much a mentor as a life coach, which is my mother.
Okay, that's lovely. That's not odd. That's really nice. I like that.
Well, she's, taught me the appreciation for the arts, performing arts, visual arts. She's an amazing writer. She's often helped me in editing my work, and has always championed my causes.
Lovely, lovely. What's your favorite show to photograph at? Of course, you've been to so many all over the world.
Oh, wow. That's another tough one. It's because so many shows have so many different meanings for me, that, again, they're for me, it's the Dracula show, it's Windsor, it was Westchester, the honor of recording the history behind Westminster and Crufts, and the various world shows, and the European winter shows. I can't say there's one show.
Okay. Well, you said a few, so that's good. And then finally, your best breed to photograph. Who do you enjoy photograph? Which breed do you enjoy photographing the most? It's probably, again, a very difficult question. But...
No, I just have to say hams.
Okay.
Dogs that are hams. Dogs that just, it's all about them.
Okay.
Because that brings such fun when they'll really work with me. And it's, when I'm photographing these dogs, I look at the person that the dog is. And that's what I want to bring out. When you get one that's a ham, oh my God, I can keep going all day.
Yeah. And that's a really nice thing to finish off with, I think, actually, because I think sometimes if people wanting to get that photograph and get a little bit uptight about it and want things to be still, that may be when you don't get that brilliant photo. You want a little bit of energy and a bit of excitement, a bit of va-va-voom, along with some light and a bit of patience as well.
A lot of patience.
Yeah, a lot of patience. A lot of patience. But thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. It's always an absolute pleasure to listen to you, your life stories, experiences, and all of the advice that everyone will have heard, listening to you talk. It's just an absolute privilege. So thank you very much to you for your time today.
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Let us know if you've got any questions that you would like us to ask Lisa, and we can ask her and get a fabulous answer for you. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
We're going to show just how good for you that walk with your dog can be by tracking Erin and Molly's steps.
New improved recipe Eukanuba takes a tailored life stage approach. Because for optimal body condition, the best nutrition is nutrition that builds and supports. Start with Eukanuba for puppy, and you're building a strong foundation for your dog to become a healthy adult. I feed Molly on Eukanuba, tailored for active large breed adults. You can tell she loves the taste. Eukanuba brings out the best in Molly, and I suspect she brings out the best in me.
Erin took 7,990 steps, burning the same calories as 25 minutes on a treadmill. One good walk every day burns the equivalent of an average 3-mile run. Health and well-being that builds from one life stage to the next. Share a long, healthy life with your dog. Eukanuba. Live life well.